Should we start, gentlemen? Great. Hi. So, welcome everyone. I'll take a couple of minutes to introduce everyone, the speakers, and then we will take it forward. So, I'm Apurva Shade. I'm the ED at Imarticus, and I head the corporate business. Over the years, we have engaged actively, not just with our clients, but with market leaders to understand the upcoming trends in skilling, especially in the field of financial services, technology, and new age skills. We have been hosting these short sessions with industry leaders to understand the fast changing technology landscape. Today's topic for discussion is enabling scalability via AI and RPA. We will be discussing on this meteoric rise of RPA in modern day business and how this is even more important in current times. AA, that is Automation Anywhere, is a leading RPA provider in driving transformational scalability across the globe and across various industries. We will be talking about skills and how budding professionals as well as experienced individuals should adapt and face this unprecedented advancement in automation. Let me not waste time and introduce both the speakers. Nikhil. Nikhil is a co-founder at Imarticus Learning. Over the period of last 7 years, he has led the growth of Imarticus from one branch, one certification company to 15 branches across India and Asia, with a portfolio of over a dozen industry-endorsed programs, both in online and offline space. Over the last 7 years, Imarticus has evolved as a strong B2B learning partner as well, delivering customized bespoke learning in both online and offline format, specifically in the areas of financial services, analytics, technology, and leadership. He began his career in corporate finance division of erstwhile Lehman Brothers at New York, following which he moved to Mumbai to set up Lehman's India operations. He has successfully managed large operations, technology, and project teams in Nomura. Ankur Kothari. Ankur is a dear friend and a fellow alumni from my school. It's indeed a proud moment, Ankur, to host you. Ankur is a co-founder, COO, and a board member of Automation Anywhere as well. Ankur heads AA's global revenue generation and customer operations strategies. As a co-founder, he has been driving force from company's inception, playing a critical leadership role in determining and implementing company's vision and strategy in the engineering, products, services, and support divisions. With more than 15 years experience in the software industry, Ankur has developed a unique business perspective, automation to new markets, introducing robot-human partnership to key executives worldwide, and translating the business impact of automation to large enterprises, service providers, system integrators, advisors, shared services, and GICs. Serving customers in 90 countries with 1,000 plus pre-built bots and 2.4 million plus bots deployed. AA is one of the market leaders in RPA. What you don't know about Ankur, Ankur's aspiration include participating in Ironman and operating a microbrewery. If I know him well, then I'll put my money more on the microbrewery than the Ironman. But Ankur, over to you. Maybe you can clarify that. Over the next 40-45 minutes, we will be having this engaging conversation between Nikhil and Ankur. All of you, please be participative. If you have any questions, feel free to ask that question in the chat box here. I will take your questions, and in last 10 to 15 minutes, both Ankur and Nikhil will be happy to answer those questions. So over to you, Nikhil, and then Ankur. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Apurva, for the intro. Ankur, microbrewery sounds like a lot more fun than automation RPA bots.
I think so. It's a little bit of a seasonal thing. You have to keep drinking beer and then you have to keep running to shade off the extra weight. So I think so. It's a cycle of life when you connect the two. Just fun, just fun, but yeah. Obviously.
Ankur, tell us a little bit of it. To start us off, tell us a little bit about your journey in terms of I've seen that you studied in India. You moved to the US after after some time. Tell us a little bit how you ended up in the US, and then later on I'll ask you again in terms of how did you go about founding, how the idea of AA came through.
The outset, just let me thank you guys for hosting. It's been a pleasure being here. Not just did my high schooling in Mumbai. As Apurva said, we were in the same school, so it was good fun. But I did my undergrad in University of Wisconsin. So I went there to do my computer science. Very early fell in love with computers, so went for computer science in University of Wisconsin, and that's when I moved there. And then obviously after my graduation, I moved to Silicon Valley. Generally, most of the computer science guys want to go there. So took a job there in Siebel Systems, and then 2 years out, we came up with the idea of automation anywhere. So kind of left Siebel and started automation anywhere. That's been a very brief. If I have to summarize very quickly, that's been the path towards where it is.
And Ankur, tell us the birth. Everybody has. I have my own story about how we founded Imarticus, and but tell us a little bit about your story. How did it come? I believe you have you had multiple founders, etc. That you guys came together and did a. Obviously, the success of a is there for everyone to see. But walk us through in terms of why AA, what were you seeing as a gap in the market at that particular point of time? How did you guys come together?
We knew each other. But the problem we saw was if you look at any enterprise, it has thousands and thousands of applications, but less than, if I have to say, less than 10% of application can talk to each other, meaning they could talk, you could integrate them through APIs. It was done through APIs. And less than 1% of the people could make those applications talk to each other. We call them programmers. So when we looked at that problem, we said that with this less than 10% of the application that can talk to each other, and so many industries came out of it, BPM, EAI, ETL, a lot of three-letter acronyms came out of it. What about this 90% of the rest of the application? How do they interact with each other? What we found was that it was done in the same, doesn't matter you are the most advanced tech company or you are one of the most old school industry, those applications talk to each other in the same way across board. Get people moving things, data from year to year, and we use people to make those systems connect with each other. So when we saw that problem, we said, man, if you look at this 90% of the problem, how big a problem is that to solve? So we said that if you can create a product that can allow you to create bots that can interact with these systems the way you and I do, meaning through front end. It can also do it from back end because technology allows you to do that. Then you can make any two systems talk to each other. And if you do that, it completely changes the landscape of a modern day enterprise where you can not just integrate or automate processes within hours or within days, but anyone can do it. So that was the part second that was the real part that we looked at that problem to solve. Also at the outset, when we looked at this problem, we questioned ourselves that what if all these other applications starts exposing their APIs, what happens? He said, even if you magically bring all the CEOs and make them do that, that still doesn't solve the problem because you require 6 to 7 times more programmers on planet Earth to attempt that kind of integration. So we saw a big opportunity and a massive problem that affects every businesses. And we thought that if we can create a product that makes it easy for everyone to automate, we'll just be onto something. So that's where the whole thing started.
Ankur, in terms of actually putting the initial team together, was it an idea that was born out of too much drinking? Was it an idea that you like? Tell me the first conversation or the first moment of that idea or the first month of it.
No, it was just well, you can imagine in Silicon Valley generally most of those conversations are always tech driven. Pretty much all of us are technology geeks. So we were discussing this, and then we said, hey, there is a real value here. And generally from there, the moment an engineer sees here a real value, suddenly you start opening up and start looking at the problem and start coding. So uh, initially we saw that here is a value, but now what do we do about it? And initial time was all about what can we create technically that can solve this problem. So we pretty much boiled down to that. Um, People have asked me this, and I've tried to recollect. Was there a big moment? It was not. It was very boring and dull. We just we just found this problem, and almost next day or day later started working towards it. I really wish there was some good story behind it, but there was not
You
much.
need to make one up.
Could not make anything up. But yeah, no, it was very simple like that. But look, I think so. One thing, Miguel, I may say is that it still looked like a big problem then and still looks like a big problem now. So one thing we did early on, I remember, is that we just wanted to break it down to the very small part of the problem, because while you see a very big world, you fall into this trap of thinking wide. So we just early days. I remember first few years. It was just about getting the heart of the technology right. Saying, can you truly make anyone can create these automations, and can it talk to any system? That was a very simple problem that we started working toward. But I really wish I had some better story than that.
Ankur, obviously now when you look at it, you see this billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar business with lots and lots of thousands of employees, with lots of clients. Give us a little bit about the seminal moments, if you will, of I don't want to say, I don't think we have the time to go through lowlights and highlights, but inherently were there some inflection points, could be upwards or downward, doesn't matter, but do you remember some inflection points in your journey which says, yeah, I mean, this was the time when we really sort of went up or went down, or give us a little bit of commentary on the journey.
Sure. I think so. There are two, three points where it kind of really took off. One was during this time of 2009 to 2013, where the financial crisis, I mean, there's a recession across. And I mean, early days, it kind of took off a lot from a departmental level part. So we knew we were working with hundreds and thousands of clients, but on a lot of point problems and point solutions that they were using our product for. So early days was very much about at a department level how these automations happen. I remember in 2013 or 2014, that's where generally the world took off, saying, just post recession, saying automations are the next level of efficiencies that every company needs to start looking at. And suddenly overnight, it was a big inflection that we started seeing, where we started working with hundreds of partners worldwide, because suddenly the conversations moved in enterprise from getting the work done to what value you're bringing to the customer. Pretty much automation was the next evolution that happened in modern day enterprise. So that was one part that we saw. Obviously, RPA as an industry started taking off from that point. That was one point where it became an important conversation in pretty much a lot of RFIs, RFPs. I mean, in a lot of conversations that went. Second point where we started seeing a big inflection was when everyone started connecting the AI with RPA. And that was again because it took the problem to a very different level of intelligent automation and digital workforce, where suddenly we moved from departmental to an enterprise-wide conversation. And it became important on a CXO table. generally you hear this word digital transformation a lot in last. It's one of the most, at least personally, it's one of the most thrown around buzzword that I've seen. But generally, it, it comprises of 6-7 different technologies that are spearheading that. RPA, AI, cloud, you have analytics, you have blockchain, you have the IoT. So some of these technologies are spearheading this. What we found was that while this wave of digital transformation is happening, only RPA and cloud had ROI within months. Everything else was a 2 to 3 year project. And with that, suddenly it became a leading technology that suddenly in every enterprise started talking about. So we saw some of those inflection points happening. But it has been fabulous journey so far. It still feels like we are skimming the surface. From how it went from department to enterprise to IT to now almost at a globally used across the world.
Ankur, from a RPA, usage or leveraging RPA, have you seen uh, different industries approach it differently? For example, have financial services done a good job versus some of the other industries? Have they taken up a little bit more easier? Do you see an industry-wide view across RPA, and is that from your perspective? Do you approach that market differently? For example, do you approach the financial services clients differently than to FMCG clients, for example, or for you it's agnostic?
I mean, there is an industry aspect to it. I mean, generally, to your point, Nikhil, banking and financial services, insurance have been early adopters. I mean, but I don't know. Personally, I think they are always an early adopter for a lot of enterprise technology. If you look at the history of enterprise technology, BFSI has been ahead. Also, I think so. Personally, I think so. There is this aspect that they feel ahead because there are many of them. We have seen across 21 different industries where we are scaling worldwide. For example, telco moved as fast from our standpoint as BFSI. But if you look at US, there are only 3 major telcos. But there are thousands of banks. So suddenly the noise that financial services creates is much more because there are many of them. But having said that, yes, the regulated industry has a big benefit to gather from automation, which is not just cost and efficiency and productivity improvement, but also on compliance, governance, and from a security in that aspect. So they uptake that much faster. We have, to your second question, that do we approach it differently? Yes, there is an industry aspect to it. Not just us, but our partners approach it with a lot of industry domain because the processes are connected. But still, the basic concept still remains the same because your FNA is FNA, your HR processes are HR process, IT process. So there's a lot of commonality also that cuts across different industry. Recently, in the current COVID crisis, we saw obviously some, not just BFSI accelerating more, but a lot of healthcare, pharma, life sciences. I mean, they adopted, their adoption also grew to a very different scale. So you see that those trends happening from industries.
Ankur, is there a regional view? Like, for example, US, for example, how has India done from your perspective, from an RPA leverage and utilization perspective? Are we, is there a focus? I know you obviously have a global business, a lot of it is based out of the US also. But how would you rate India's view on RPA, etc.? Normally we get this view ki log cheap hai, unko le lo types. Is that still prevailing or we have moved from there?
No, Nikhil, we have been very publicly vocal. I have been vocal about it. We believe that India has the potential to become the business hub for automation worldwide. And very rarely a country gets that opportunity. And then there is enough logic and enough data to go around that. First of all, when you look at process automation, before the automation wave took on, the processes were already moving to India with a lot of partners and GICs. And so that capability already was getting built in the country. If you think of manufacturing, and now China played a role in kind of getting the imagination of the world in terms of manufacturing. I think so. If you look at the world of processes, India played a very similar role in the early part. And if I have to take that analogy a little bit further, when automation came in factories, um, China didn't say that we are the leaders in manual manufacturing. They said that we are leader in manufacturing. Then they embraced this technology, and then from I don't know, the 12 to 13% of the manufacturing that happened in China moved to a very big, about 40%. I think so. Similar opportunity relies with in India. We have seen that where almost all of our partners have embraced that. Suddenly now this is part of every conversation with enterprise, where partners have taken, they all have their RPA and AI practice, but also a lot of GICs for MNCs, they have taken it to a very different level. And they've been on this journey for 6 years. Also, if you look at overall from a population standpoint, from a country standpoint, the advantages we have in the youth, as well as engineering talent, as well as understanding the processes, that entire domain space. So there are enough things going for the country. So there is a very unique way I see this thing coming together. It's we are bullish about it. We have seen that also across board, where a lot of our clients start their journey in respective countries, but if they have their captive or GIC sitting, global in-house center sitting in India, they make sure that they are part of that journey, because a lot of the processes are already running here and they are standardized.
Ankur, have you gathered good experiences around local Indian companies which don't have offshoring units here in the form of maybe JIC or captive or any of that? Have you had examples of that where large local Indian companies have taken on automation anywhere and taken on sort of the remit of RPA?
Yes, in last 2.5, 3 years, we have seen that trend also going up, with a lot of India corporates are pretty much uh, 7 out of top 10 are our customers, and they have started on their journey on different fronts. Not just that, Nikhil, I've also now seen from last 1.5, 2 years, we are seeing a lot of public sectors, not just private sector industry, public sector industry is also utilizing our products. So that trend is now going up. So again, to kind of tie it back to your previous question about role of India, you see these kind of different streams coming together. You have a local Indian companies, they are embracing this and they are taking it, starting on that journey. You have some government backed companies and public sector that is using it. And obviously you have most of our strategic partners, they have their operations here. They've been on this journey since 2012, 2013, and then GIC. So you very rarely you see all these different streams coming in now one place. And also it's a unique dynamic, right? If you go to Bangalore, and if in a day you can kind of meet, obviously traffic permitting, you can meet 6 different companies with 6 different industries, which are which have connections in different part of the world. So from an impact standpoint, also that impact comes much more. So we are very bullish about how India can play a role in the world of automation.
I'm going to briefly talk a little bit about so that the audience understands the business model, if you will, on automation anyway. And I'm sure it's got various parameters, but maybe we can talk about what from a consumer experience perspective, how do they leverage AA, etc. And let me give you a follow-up question also. I think that there's a misnomer which I think you can clear up is, look, RPA can be only done by large companies. If you have a small sort of unit, if you will, etc., then you don't have a choice to RPA, etc. So maybe tie both those from a business model perspective, your focus, and then also the focus on big versus small companies.
From a business standpoint, business model, I mean, we're a software company. People buy our software, they are annual subscription driven, utilized worldwide, either directly through us or through thousands of our partners that are everywhere. So it's fairly standard software SaaS business model that you can think. To tie back to your question of large and mid, in fact, it's one of the biggest myths. I mean, we see, while large enterprises where the use cases are more and the ROIs are bigger and the stories are bigger, it is equally utilized by mid-market from our perspective, what we have seen. We have a cloud offering which is utilized so much by mid-market, because if you think about any kind of a company, yes, if you are a large company, you have tons of uh, benefits that you can gather. But same is true for any size company, because you all are trying, everyone is trying to do more with less. If you are in a hyper growth, you want to automate more because you can't hire fast enough and train fast enough. If you are, there are certain things that you would never do if you, because it may not make business sense to do it manually as a business, but you want to do those processes if you can find a way to do that. So that is second. But also a lot of mid companies have utilized this as a competitive advantage. They have used it more in front office aspect of dealing with their clients, working with their clients, improving that aspect of their world even more, not just only the efficiency. Because the efficiency problem is same, Nikhil, as you can imagine. If you're a multi-billion-dollar company, or if you're a small company, you still have to do more in the same time. You still have to give customer delight, and the processes remain the same. Both have to file taxes, and the same amount of problems go through that. So I think so. We have seen that data shows that as much mid-market and small businesses are utilizing automation. Now, obviously, for obvious reasons, the large stories come out more in public domain because of the familiarity of brands.
Yeah.
It's a clear myth that we have seen.
Ankur, when as I was looking at news for this talk, one of the things I noticed was that you partner with literally everyone. You partner with IBM, you partner with Microsoft, you are a partner, and I mean everyone in terms of I saw all of them, etc. Clearly, that's a go-to-market strategy in terms of how you deploy. But maybe give us a few thoughts there in terms of how does somebody see that ecosystem, specifically your partner ecosystem?
I'll break it down into a few pieces. One is a very clear piece of large SIs and advisories, which are consulting their clients on digital transformation. From there, I earlier alluded to that fact that this is one of the technology that they lead with. So the Deloittes of the world, Ernst & Young, EY, KPMG, Accentures, TCS. So those they become a big part, and also the large BPM industries, because finally it's all about process automation and process optimization. So they are a big part of our partner ecosystem. At the same time, um, this is becoming front and center into every enterprise. So we have a lot of niche partners who are making, to your earlier point, they have a domain expertise on certain vertical. They have certain understanding of that, or a geography based understanding, and they go deep into certain parts. So they become a different sort of partners in adding value on top of our bots, or they can help customer build those bots.
True.
Those are two. At the same time, now, if you look at now the way enterprise is evolving, bots are kind of becoming in context into every application. They're becoming part of every conversation. And suddenly in that, you see a lot of software integration partnerships that are happening. One point to case is our partnership with Salesforce or Workday, and you have out of the box Salesforce bots that are deployed that customers can use within context to kind of improve their CPQ and billing, to improve their contact centers and things like that. So that's a third angle. And the fourth angle is, as you also know, there are the learning as the skills and the demand for RPA keeps skyrocketing. We have a lot of learning partners like yourself, because they end up, their whole part is about working with upskilling and reskilling the entire employee base, or entire career builders, as you like to call it, to grow. So those are different aspects of our, nothing unusual from any standard large enterprise software company. But good news is that partners, having so many partners also validates the space, because suddenly it's not one dimensional and enterprises are looking at a different aspect. And if you look at any company, they have tons of partners that they work with. Some are in front office, some are in IT, some are in back office. They all work with us to kind of bring a better value to their customer.
Sure. Ankur, if I may say, like AI has been one of the, yeah, I mean, we can count the number of global companies or global product companies, if I can use the word loosely, out of India. Now there are global large companies, etc., with global, etc. And this is more for the entrepreneurs in the audience in terms of what do you think that was different about this particular sort of franchise or this particular company that you guys did? And that could be team, product, culture, could be a combination, and maybe sometimes, most of the times, it's a combination of all three things. But maybe you can. This is a more of an advice to an entrepreneur as he is looking to build his small business to a large global business. What should he be doing? What should he be not doing? Maybe.
I don't know. I can give advice, but I can share with you what we did. Maybe that is some value. Look, we started uh, in 2003, 2004, and at that time there were very less product companies in general connected to India. I mean, we started in Bay Area, but we immediately opened our India operations. I think so. One thing is that we were very focused on the problems that we wanted to solve and solve it through product. The focus on creating the best product has always been one of our north. I always believed that you want to fall in love with the problem and not solution. If you fall in love with the right problem, solution takes care of itself. If you fall in love with the solution, everyone falls in the fall in love with their own myth, and that can be disastrous. And we fell in love with this problem of, can you automate any process that can be automated? And so there was this focus. I mean, I don't know, that there's this focus and love for that one single problem that we wanted to solve through product. I do believe that there are everything has a limit. Your talent has a limit. Your greed has a limit. Your ambition has a limit. Everything has a limit. I can be most ambitious, but if something, my son needs me, am I going to not go there and not drop everything? I will. But there are two things that allows you to, I guess, find out what you never thought you were capable of, or make you do things that you never thought you were capable of and rise in your personal or professional life. One is if you fell in love with some problem that is bigger than yourself. So that we did. It makes you do things that you never thought you were capable of. And the second point in case, lot of I guess freedom movements, and you believe in something that is bigger than you. That helps. And the second thing is team. I think so. It is extremely important to understand that anything is a team sport. So you can't do it yourself. You have to surround yourself with the best talent that is available. You have to work with them. And the way your team pushes you to do things, nothing else can. Point in case, a lot of, I don't know, professional sports or armed forces, you see a team because your teammate may force you to do or pushes you to do things across those boundaries. I think so. We got those two things, but we are working to get that. It's always a work in progress, but those are the two things that got it right. There are enough challenges that happens across every company, but if you get those two things right, if you remain focused on the problem you are trying to solve, and if you create a culture of team, I think so. Those two things takes you through a lot of tough days and makes all other thing worthwhile. So those are the two things that I think so we got it right. From a product standpoint, it was initially it was a little bit unique, where in 2003, 2004, the product culture in India was not as strong as now it is. Now there are like tons of product companies. So that's a good thing. Now that if I see from an India landscape, that's a big advantage now.
I'm going to let's change track on more skill career development around RPA and talk a little bit about that. First, let me take the easy one. RPA is bad for jobs. It takes away jobs. Nobody should be using RPA. I'm throwing you an easy one at it. Yeah, so let's address that first concern in terms of which is prevalent a lot, maybe less now. I've seen in the last 3 4 years, but I think I think it's still prevalent, and that sort of does limit that growth, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I think so. As you can imagine, I've answered this many times. We have any technology. If you think from, let's say, when computers came, everyone thought we are done, and then when internet came again, the same thing happened. I'm sure there are some jobs that got affected, but in grand scheme of things, more jobs were created. So any technology kind of starts like that. If you because it's a myth, because generally people view this as a zero sum game, and it's not a zero sum game. Any technology disruption is not about reducing the pie, it's about expanding the pie. The San Francisco taxi market was a few hundred million market before Uber came in and completely disrupted. That market now is in few billions. So, I mean, that has been true across board from a business standpoint. If you look at it, just from a historic standpoint, from a specific example standpoint, thousands of customers, we have not seen jobs ever getting affected on that, because fundamentally everyone is, when it comes to processes, they have to do more with less. They are always overwhelmed. So there is a big room for automation, that the optimization that exists. We have not seen those things happening. Um, any RPA journey that we have seen, many times it starts with doubts or questions, and rightly so. You have those questions about every technology. But the moment they automate the first bot, suddenly those doubts convert into possibilities. And that's the perfect time to, it's one of the best moments that I have experienced with clients, because every technology led transformation is initially about productivity, but that's not what it's all about. It's about progress. It's about progressing your teams, your companies, your industry forward. It's about progressing your customer forward. So if I have to connect the two, we have seen people who automate more, their market share has expanded. I mean, the work has expanded, because fundamentally people are automating this many processes where the world is kind of increasing the amount of processes and work that is happening. So in fact, we have seen other way around. It has created more jobs from, yes, the jobs that you do may change. So from a bank standpoint, if they automate a very simple process of address change, the person who previously changed the address now is running a bot that changes the address and is understanding the analytics out of it, saying X number of people are moving from low net worth area to high net worth area, and passing that information to front office to say that talk to them now. So the roles change, but the jobs don't go.
And there are lots of professionals who actually want to make a career in RP, etc. A lot of them are, have just graduated from a technical degree or have, a less amount of years of experience. How do they think about this career? What are the different types of roles you've seen? If you can give some commentary, that help.
The recently with Gartner, and they shared an interesting fact that it is still the fastest growing software industry right now, and a CAGR wise. The demand is up there, and the people who can work with bots are less. So there's a big pent up demand of people who can create bots, people who can work with bots, who can change the processes. We are seeing a huge demand across board in terms of skilling and upskilling. We have an Automation Anywhere university, online university with 100 plus courses. But if you look at that, more than 1.2 million people have been trained across board. So there's a big appetite out there in the market. And another reason is that because this is a global technology deployed across 90 countries, because fundamentally it's about work and automation of work, and work is everywhere. It also has a reach, which is not just one industry specific or one geography specific, or in a particular part of the enterprise, only back office or front office. It cuts across. So if you look at a TAM, which is extremely huge, just getting started. They're almost in the second or third innings of a baseball game. And with all the roles changing, there's a big demand for people who can create bots, or you can use bots to change processes and customer and employee experience. So if you go to sites like Indeed, or tons of material out there where how now the demand for RPA developers or AI developers are going up. And from Automation Anywhere standpoint also, we have, as you said, we have hundreds of partners and customers, and they keep looking for people who are trained and certified in Automation Anywhere in a big capacity.
And or is there a ideal attribute, or could be soft skills, could be technical skills that you look for in an RPA professional? Like, for example, do they have to be, do they have to be BEs in computer science to be an RPA professional, or
No,
what
in
are the
fact,
softer skills also that you look for?
no, in fact, it's other way around, right? I started by saying that if everyone exposes API, still you need 6 times programmers, so that's not going to happen. No, actually not. The evolution of this technology has gone into a level where you do require certain skills if you want to create bots. But let's say I'm not at all technical, but I'm a process analyst, and I have to change my process. I have to transform that. I'll still have to understand what bots can do, can't do. How do I manage that? One of the change that we are seeing is that instead of companies saying, if you look at a few years ago, companies used to say that we are a 30,000 people company or 20,000 people company. No more that's true. I mean, one way we are seeing this transformation happening is that a lot of companies, a few, have started saying that we have 20,000 people and 2,000 bots working together, because fundamentally you grow that together. So if you think of a business person, they'll have to understand how processes will evolve and how they will change to drive a better experience with the technologies that are available to you. So you don't just create bots. The skill set are also required to understand what bots can do, so you can change the processes, how you can drive better outcomes using these technologies. Because technology is at the end of the day a means to an end. You use it to drive certain changes in your business. So we see three types of broad category roles. Roles that are all about creating, managing, running bots. Roles that are about using those bots to change processes. And the third thing is about how you can drive better business outcome by understanding what this technology can do to your customer. So those are different roles that we see.
And I could map the same thing for experienced professionals. So, for example, you talked about the three types of roles, for a lack of a better word. Um, an experienced professional has, X years of experience, 5, 10 years of experience, could be in software dev, could be in variety of etc. How should he think about an entry and exit point for an RPA career? And maybe you can map it back to these roles.
In fact, the building part has grown more. We do see almost in our automation university, 1/3 of the people who get trained are out of college grads, but a big portion of that is actually people who are professionals working in their own enterprise and acquiring the skills to help their enterprise better. If you think of RPA, the most common place where RPA and AI gets used is in back office to drive productivity gain and change processes. But it also gets extremely heavily used in front office to improve customer experience and reduce customer cycle time. And it is now also being used very heavily in employee productivity and employee experiences. So if you connect that that triangle, which fundamentally is important for every CEO, your customer experience, your productivity, and your employee experience, you find professionals in different spectrum who are acquiring this skill set. To little bit like when in the process world, when Lean Six Sigma came, initially it was a idea. Over a period of time, everyone had to understand that for them to make any meaningful impact into their operations. If your goal is to become a digital enterprise, which is what pretty much a lot of companies are striving to be there, uh, you can't just get there by creating one app or just a nice website. You can't become just because I have a cricket bat in my hand, it doesn't make me a cricketer. Similarly, if you just do one or two projects, it doesn't make you a digital enterprise. For that to happen, your operations has to become digital. And for that, your processes have to be digital. So when you look at that aspect like that, Nikhil, I think so, we have seen senior level managers who are also understanding what this technology does for them to grow, because they can repackage and transform their operations, which are more catered to improving customer handling and cycle time, meaning customer experience. At the same time, make it much more efficient by reducing the drag on the business when it comes to an operational efficiency standpoint. We are seeing that as a big uptake. And also people who have worked with, who are working in back office, front office, they are very quickly picking up this skill. One thing you alluded to earlier was that, do I have to be a BE or a computer science? No, you don't, right? You are, if I understand process, you can learn this technology within days and at least create simple bots or medium bots, and not always complex. That itself is a very big tool in your arsenal if you're trying to looking a career change and grow more broadly in your company or outside. So we are seeing that uptake more. If you right now are in enterprise and you say, I know how to work with a bot, or what value it can, or what impact it can bring, it's a very big skill set to have in any part of the world.
And of course, tacking on obviously, not only working with a bot, but then tacking on AI to it, or even the cyber part of it, etc., then makes that skill set a lot more powerful also.
It
Uh,
completely does, right?
you sort of take the confluence of these three, four skills that you talked about, which is a digital transformation, and you combine one or two, and then truly you will be able to achieve great business outcomes.
Yeah. I mean, at a very heart of it, it goes to democratization of any technology, right? Once you take it from hands of few and put it in hands of everyone, over a period of time, everyone has to learn that and put that skill set as part of their equation. I mean, technology moves very fast, but if you think 20, 30 years ago, how many people understood how to navigate a computer and use all the, currently that's not even a question that do you know how to do that. Similarly, if 10% of the workforce becomes digital, will working will be a question, will it be a question, you know, how to operate, work, optimize with that workforce, and how do you partner with that? So that's cutting across the entire spectrum of an enterprise that we are seeing. Previously it was only to one part of enterprise to create a bot. Now it is in IT, it's in front office, and it is across the process landscape that we are seeing. Also, AI, as it goes, it kind of creates these amazing models that you can start bringing to the to improve your customer experience. You're absolutely right. We are seeing it.
Ankur, Apurva is pinging me to shut up. So, but I'll ask you. I'll ask you a final question before I let you go. I've seen one of, and I've personally, my firm has personally interacted with a university, etc. And I've seen that you take that initiative very seriously. Maybe give us a little bit of in terms of what was the idea, what is the outcome, and what are you up to in a university?
The idea was very simple. You cannot change the future of work without changing the future workforce. So without them, it doesn't happen. So we wanted to make sure that everyone can work again with this technology, not just few. Uh, some of the best stories, Nikhil, if I may say, People Shores, Rural Shores, one of our uh, um, partners, and they work with economically challenged individuals and people who have gone through, suffered extreme hardships like abuses and all. And and some of them who have acquired that skill set in US or in rural shores in India, they have landed some really big jobs just by on this skill set. So uh, we have been very proud of our initiative of taking this technology and put it in hands of everyone, so that they can find these new jobs of that are getting created across the world. Um, and any evolution is also about how the jobs also change, right? What are you expected to do? Our kids would laugh at us and say, "What were you doing? Were you entering things into systems?" So they are more now talking to you're talking to to machines. They would be really laughing at us saying, "Were you typing on keyboards?" So that evolution is very critical. I remember I have a 4-year-old, and you put something TV in front of him and he tries to do this, and he looks at me saying, "What old technology is this? You can't touch it." So we have seen that, and from Automation Anywhere University, we have also, with partners like you, it has allowed us to take this initiative of learning and training across different enterprise, where we have integrated into their LMSs um, and like you're going to clients and kind of creating an overall learning and development strategy for them. Then how should they think about leveraging this technology to upskill their entire workforce um, uh, in their day-to-day work?
Ankur, thanks a lot for your time, and I'm a personal fan of what you guys have built at Automation Anywhere. So I'm sure you guys, I know you guys are not done and just getting started.
You've been always kind with your words and time, Nikhil, so I appreciate you taking time out on this.
Thanks, thanks, Ankur. Sorry, Nikhil. Sorry.
No, no, Apurva, over to you. You have questions, I think.
Thanks. So just a couple of questions we will take, and for all those who want to ask questions, feel free to ask them in Q&A sections. Ankur Purbi has asked that there have been cases where RPA implementation has failed. Have there been any cases where RPA implementation has failed? And if so, what are the reasons that people should watch out for?
Yeah, there are so many challenges you face early on. I mean, obviously, like any technology, early part, some of the cases has to do with learning, as you understand what to do and what not to do, what processes you want to earlier pick as you start creating this core competency in your own team. One of the learnings that we've had is that as you start earlier in your journey, you want to pick processes and teams that are more that are easier to automate to start with, because you want to create that culture of what bots are. One thing we have seen is that initially you spend a lot of time evangelizing this idea, and the best way to do that is to create few bots for people to see what it is, because half of it is about awareness on what it can do and what you can leverage it for. So that is one. And the best practices are available now. Now the technology and the methods of implementing has evolved a lot, that you can avoid some of those pitfalls that in past people faced early on as technologies have evolved. So that's one. Second part is that now that with our cloud capability, not every time you'll have infrastructure related challenges people kind of have to go through when they are doing this on-prem. So there are better ways to now leverage this technology to reduce that impact.
Thanks. Abhinav has a question. He thinks that this technology is mainly for larger and big companies. What about cheaper softwares for MSME?
As Nikhil asked and I answered, it was we have been using our product has been utilized by a lot of mid-market customers, not just in US but worldwide, in Latin America and in 90 plus countries. Also with our cloud offering, it is much easier and cheaper to get started. It's not very heavy duty from infrastructure, from starting cost standpoint. You can very easily start with 1 or 2 bots and you can start scaling. So it is all ROI driven from that standpoint. It's not one of those heavy duty ERP implementation with 3 years out. You can just start as simple as with 1 bot and then go from there. So it is utilized by a lot of small and medium businesses worldwide.
Hi, Arvind. I see you online. Arvind Kothari heads the AA University. So a big hello, Arvind. Mahendra has asked, what's your experience of use of AI and RPA in manufacturing sector?
That usage is very, very high. As you can imagine, manufacturing actually did this in their factories. So the best thing that happens when you work with a manufacturing client is that the change management is rarely there. They are used to machines working with people in their factory. So when the same thing happens in the front office, the change management aspect is very less. Their mindset is already designed like that. Their supply chains and their processes are adopted to that. So manufacturing is one place where, to Nikhil's earlier point, which industries we have seen more uptake, manufacturing is one of them, where the uptakes are much more. A lot of it has to do with their, they've been doing this already, but also with the impact that it can have on their supply chain and the benefits on the back end that they are seeing.
We have someone asking for challenges faced in market on RPA with two pointers to that. I'll quickly read those. The challenging and expensive truth about bots is that they break, as RPA bots are often brittle because they are hard coded to key fields. In our experiences, any small user interface adjustments can cause them to fail. And second point is purely RPA vendors are overselling their solutions and not speaking the truth about the reality of what an RPA bot can do. Maintaining an army of bots is a formidable challenge, and we see that problem with the automation COE of many global clients.
The first point on bots breaking, I mean, I can really geek out here, but one of the technology is robust enough that you can automate in different forms of ways. You can automate it through UI, or you can automate it based on, it understands the underlying objects. And generally, when there are simple changes, I mean, changes that happens on your UI, it is smart enough to figure out what it is doing because the bots understand the intent of it. But it all goes down to how you are creating those bots, right? What are the methods you are using to create the bots? Because there are multiple ways to do that. Again, goes back to the point of Nikhil was asking that we are seeing a big uptake in training, learning, certification of this technology so that you understand different tool set and toolkits that it provides. So you can approach this problem of automation from multiple angles to create a much more robust one. From a standpoint of management, maintenance, it's a big focus from our standpoint. As you know, a lot of our clients are large-scale deployments, and they are running mission-critical process. So keeping a full uptime is a big part, and it's a continuous focus from our standpoint, at least from an automation engineering standpoint, to keep improving. Because as the current crisis of COVID has shown that you want to keep the business continuity and business resiliency is on top of the enterprise mind, and you can't have any of these bots go down. So it's an important thing that at least we are focused on, keep improving and solving.
We have 3 more minutes, so I'll take a couple of. So we have this audience which is fresher, 0 to 2 years experience, and they are asking a lot of this question. And at the same time, we have an audience which is 7, 8 years into the industry, and they have an exact counter to this question. So I'll put both the questions together. One is coming from this experience lot that how about losing current jobs or creating new jobs due to RPA automation. So I think losing job is a big scare, and I think Ankur, I'll request you to clarify that. And on the fresher side, we have career growth in RPA. And is it good to start as a fresher, specifically in RPA?
I'll actually answer both the questions together. It's extremely good to build this skill from a demand and supply standpoint. This is where the demand is, this is where the supply is in terms of the people who can work with bots. So I would completely encourage you. There are studies by Indeed and different companies to see what is the demand and what are the different pay packages people are getting. So that is one. If you are already in the enterprise, I have rarely seen any job getting displaced because of this. In fact, everyone who has become part of this journey, I've only seen success stories where they have either grown in their career or they have moved into a different role, which allowed them to evolve their career. So we are, at least from a career standpoint, we are seeing people putting this as one of the important, I guess, notch that they want to put it on their resume. It is growing a lot. We are seeing that as part of Automation Anywhere University, we see that with every client, there's a big uptake of people trying to skill themselves on this. So I would highly encourage you to become part of this, because that has a big a big implication on the careers that we have seen positively. I don't know whether I broke off there or.
No, Ankur, you're fine. You're missing.
Sorry, guys. Last couple of questions, Ankur. Someone has asked about, I'm sorry, I lost that question. In digital marketing, automation and digital marketing, where do you see that as a industry?
Earlier you asked that how some of the smaller companies are also utilizing it, and I answered that in front office it's been utilized a lot. We are using bots in marketing aspect, where not just if you ask any marketing professional, the current marketing has become data and process driven more, as you can start putting different segments and analyzing them. So bots are utilized a lot. In fact, in our learning and development also, we have seen a big uptake of utilizing the bot. In Automation Anywhere itself, we use a bot to validate a lot of certification. If you just take that simple example, that someone gets certified in some training and they have to wait for X number of days as opposed to Y number of minutes to get that certification back, that experience completely changes. As world becomes more data driven and data comes from different places, and the consumerization of every technology is is requiring us to have our enterprise to operate very fast. That expectation is driving to different parts of the enterprise. If I may take a minute, if I watch a cricket match, I get stats there and there and all the analytics. Imagine if you tell me that the stats of that match I'll get on Sunday newspaper. Who cares? Our entertainment is real time, but for some reason in our business we still do end of the month, end of the quarter reports. So businesses are really slow. So I mean, if you take that marketing question, just making a real time business requires you to leverage this technology that can process and engage. So that has been a big take for that we have seen across different departments. While it started in back office, it's moved to front office in a very big way.
Great. We have many more questions, but for lack of time, and I don't want to kind of use up your time more. So thank you very much, Ankur. You have to promise us that you'll come one more time to take up all the other questions and to discuss the growth and the progress of Automation Anywhere.
Happy to, and thanks for hosting, Apurva, Nikhil. You've always been kind with your words and time, so appreciate that. Hopefully those questions we can answer offline, and hopefully there was some value that everyone got out of it.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ankur.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thank you everyone for attending. We will try to answer your questions offline as well. Good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Ankur.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ankur.
Thank you.